Hi there, my physical science students. We are on to week 2 of our STEAM project. Last week, I had talked to you about a bunch of vocab words. And the key thing that we were doing last week was realizing that the design process in a STEAM project is to first empathize with someone, to then define the project, ideate, which means come up with lots of ideas on how you could fix it, to do some prototypes, and then to implement your project. Well, last week was just the very, very beginning, and I introduced the word empathize. We watched 2 videos, Daniel, and he got a new prosthetic arm, and we also watched Derby the dog and saw how he got 2 prosthetic paws. The hope was that you could then empathize with both of those, one the person, the other the animal, their situations. And you could see that the people who came up with solutions for them were able to empathize with them. Last week, you also started a mind map. So the first thing you need to do this week is complete your mind map. I'm going to show you mine. It's pretty messy looking, and that's okay. This is what kind of brainstorming is all about. Let me hop back here a picture. So this is my mind map. I had put myself in the center, and then around me, I had my family, my job, and my support system. And then off of each of those, off of my family, and I showed you last week, I had my husband, Dave, my son, Cole, my daughter, Emma, but I also had my family before I was an adult. And that included my mom and my dad, my sister. You can see with my job, I have the 4 different places I've worked and all the people that are tied into that. And then last, my support system, I had my friends, I had my church family, and I connected people to all of that. So once you have your mind map done, you need to upload it and submit it to me. Your next step you're going to do is look at each one of those people on there and think about the needs that each one of them has. Now, for me, I don't necessarily have it in a particular color on there, but for me, the ones that really had stood out, and it's on my next picture slide here, I had just quickly jotted on the back of my mind map that 4 of the problems or the needs that I saw or that really kind of spoke to me, one of them was eyesight. My husband, my son, and my mom all struggle with their eyesight. My husband, he owns a brewery, and one of the things that he needs is an orange zester. Well, when you see the video, you'll see what an orange zester is. Good friend of mine, Allison, had a terrible boating accident last summer, resulted in a hand injury. You'll also see a video where she describes a little bit of her hand injury. She doesn't really tell you just how severe the injury is, but it's pretty severe. And the last was people who suffer from Parkinson's disease. It is a disease where your hands, everything shakes, your voice shakes, your hands shake. And eventually Parkinson's patients get to a point where they lose the independence of being able to feed themselves because the food won't stay on their fork or spoon. They shake so badly it falls off. Those were 4 needs that really kind of jumped out to me because the Parkinson's, several people in my family struggled with this issue. So the next thing that I did was, my next slide here, was I really kind of came up with a better definition of my 4 things I was empathizing most with. The first, my dad, he couldn't hold silverware anymore as he started to reach the end of his Parkinson's disease. He couldn't hold the silverware anymore. My husband, Dave, I know that this is a big time money issue for him. He needs to find a better way to zest oranges. My friend Allison, her boating accident, it was very scary, very tragic, but she doesn't just boat. She also owns a dairy farm. She's also a weightlifter, a mom, and a teacher. She needs her hands. And the last My son Cole, he is blind in one eye, and consequently, he has no depth perception, which is really causing him to struggle with his driving. So I felt like these were four things that spoke to me the most. So from there, I had to take each one of those and ideate. Remember, I'm going through the design process. So in my next slide, I take my first. The first one was being able to hold silverware steady. And I just tried to shoot out some ideas out of my brain. And as you can see, I really only had two. One of the things that we had gotten for my dad was it was like really heavy silverware. And that did initially slow down the tremors because the silverware was so heavy, it held the hand steady. But he eventually got to the point where he didn't have enough hand strength to actually hold that super heavy silverware. So the heavy silverware already exists. But I also had thought of if there was some kind of a leveling device. So he's hanging on to the silverware, whether it straps around his hand, so he doesn't have to hold as hard. But if there was something on the part that sticks out of the silverware, that as the hand shakes, this would kind of level it. You find those on boats so that your drinks don't spill. Next thing I quickly ideated about was the orange zester for my husband. And this one, we talk about this one a lot. And the ideas that I like the best, some kind of gloves to contour around the orange. So I would just kind of grate it like that. Or an apple peeler core. You'd put the orange in it and spin it around. The apple peeler core already exists. Could you do something like that with the orange? Some kind of a tumbler that you throw all the oranges in and it shakes and vibrates and zests the oranges. Or do I need to think of it completely different? And maybe we just need to peel the orange skin off into thin strips. And then maybe I can just throw it into a food processor and chop it up that way. So this one I had a lot of ideas about. My next one, my good friend Allison. So as you'll see in her video, one of her struggles was as owning a dairy farm, she needs to be able to pick up wheelbarrows, pitchforks. She also needs to be able to hang on to her weightlifting equipment. So I thought, I wonder if something could attach around her wrist, even a Velcro strap that would strap on there, but there'd be some kind of a rigid device coming off of that with a hook that she could hook onto things. Maybe the hook would, grab the wheelbarrow or the pitchfork, a couple different ways. Again, this is just the ideate stage. And my last one, with better driving and depth perception, well, I wondered if more mirrors on the one side of the car, the right side of the car, where his vision is really compromised. Some kind of a ping sensor. A ping sensor sends out a signal. It bounces off of something and comes back. You can get a readout that tells you how far away the object is and how fast the object is traveling. It's what police radar uses. So could we put or mount some kind of a display in the car that would tell him that ultimately AI, artificial intelligence, something in the car that would read the ping sensor and be able to tell him if it's safe or not for him to pull out into oncoming traffic. That one might be beyond my capability. So I'm going to stop sharing. Oh no, I'm not going to stop sharing the screen yet. Instead, I'm going to go back to my class page. And what I want you to do right now is you're going to pause this video in just a minute. You're going to go to my class page and I want you to find this video. This is my husband. He's looking great in this picture, but he had been brewing all day long. You're going to stop this video and I want you to watch that video of him describing what he needs. So go ahead, pause and watch that. Okay, hopefully you watched that video. What you saw is this is a business willing to spend a fair amount of money on a orange zester that will save them time. I think he said that right now he's paying somebody for, was it 1 or 2 hours worth of work, zesting all these oranges. Not only is it a time suck, but it also becomes a safety factor because grating an orange will oftentimes grate your knuckles too, and you cannot get blood into your recipe. Now I want you to pull up the second video, the finger laceration, and I want you to watch the video of my friend Allison. Go ahead, pause now. All right, again, hopefully you watched that video and you saw she was describing how another name for it is called degloving. And what happened was her boat, the ladder on her boat, got hooked on her ring. She got tossed from the boat because they were in a bad storm. And her ring actually pulled all of the skin off of her finger. It's called degloving. And when she was in the hospital, they were able to bring that back down, sew it back on, but she lost feeling and the use of that finger. And while she could still use these 3 fingers, she was not allowed to put any pressure on the hand. And she still, 6 months later, it's very uncomfortable for her to put any weight on that hand. So she's looking for an assistive device to help her lift heavy things. So I want you to finish your mind map this week. Try to empathize with at least 4 people or things or situations on yours. Come up with some ideas for each of them. And then I want you to just pick one. And this week, keep brainstorming lots of ideas for how you can solve this need. And next week, we're going to start to prototype. We're going to start to build things to see if they work. But keep in mind, I don't expect you to build something that works the first time. It might not even work the 50th time. Do I want you to build it 50 times? Well, only if you want to build it 50 times. The idea of this project is to show you the design process within the STEAM. So there should be some drop boxes for you to submit things. I do have a worksheet on there. If you would rather put your information on the worksheet digitally, you can. Otherwise, I wrote my stuff all out on paper because, whoops, when I'm brainstorming, I do better that way. Okay. And pop into any of my office hours if you want some help brainstorming. Oh, I know the other thing was if you really are stuck and you cannot come up with an idea, but you like one of my 2 ideas, either the orange zester or something from my friend Allison, feel free to use those as your project. Okay. I know that Dave is looking for that magical orange zester that he can pay somebody to build for him. All right, guys, have a great week. Hope to see you.